Empire had got corrupt, hid the truth from the people, and began to enslave the people. So then you had a series of Moors who stood for the truth of what the Moorish Empire was about, and they said, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to use the Europeans as a tool to overthrow the wicked Moorish Empire. See, our ancestors did things long time ago that will come to fruition at a later date. The Moors who stood for the true principles of what the Moorish civilization was about, and they rebelled against the Moorish Empire, which had got corrupt and began to enslave people, and the rulers of sultans got greedy and began to give the people Islamism, which was religious mystery and spook god worship. Instead of giving them the signs of mathematics from 0 to 9, zodiac and geometry, that was hidden. And that was considered like taboo. That was considered bad. And you had to deal with the religious mystery part because they understood that religion is a form of mass control. So them documents that you see the European with that was given to them. All that knowledge was given to them. There's a lesson here in dealing with Big Ben Bay where they talk about this mystery man that shows up at the sign of Declaration of Independence. They said the sign of Declaration of Independence, Independence Hall, whatever, they had the doors locked, guards downstairs, everything. So they over there, up there arguing, you know, they scared, they really scared to declare their independence. We gonna kill and all this stuff like that, you know, and then I think that's one time when they say, we don't hang together, we don't hang along, something like that. Anyway, they fussing whether or not they're gonna sign this document. The document's there, they're like, we gonna get killed. All of a sudden, a man stands up, nobody, how do you get in there? And he says, sign that document. And then he goes to a long list of why they should sign that document. And when he finished, all of them ran to the table to sign the Declaration of Independence. When he turned around, the man was gone. And all through the history of the United States, you will always see these mystery people who are behind the scenes doing certain things, and the white people up front taking the credit for it. The Declaration of Independence, those things were put together. That's for us to use now. So that when we step up to the USA Society, that we declare our independence from you, and say, well, what right you had to declare independence? You did the same thing back then. In the list of abuses that you gave to justify you declaring it, we got a list 10 times longer than that to justify our claim. And if what we are doing now is invalid, then what you did back then is invalid. See, we got to know how to use the same documents that they use. We can use the same things to do what we got to do in this time, because when our ancestors put them things together, they really put it together for us in this day and time. And this is why they was told, sign that thing. Because my descendants in the future will be able to use that. I was talking about what I seen, because, see, land, nature, that's the foundation of our spirituality. Our spirituality is nature-based. You're never going to be truly spiritual people while you're walking out here on concrete, and you never really make contact with the earth. Sometimes you just got to go out there, put your feet up, and establish that contact. We at 144,000. We got to realize who we are, reclaim our nationality, and realize who we are. Deal with more science. More science encompasses everything. You could deal with every science, any science, and that's more science. In the Moors, there's no such thing as, nah, brother, we don't deal with that, nah. Now-minded and dogmatic type of approach. Nah, we do the science to everything in life. Everything in life. And it's important to get in tune with nature because it will save your life. You will know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what you should do to save yourself. You see, we got to develop a technology that's in harmony with nature, that doesn't destroy it, but that's balanced with it. This society is out of balance. Technology is all up here, and society's down here. The highest crime rate, places like New York, you got more people killed in 1 year that's killed in these different wars that's happening in the Middle East and all this stuff like that. And there's no stated declaration of war, but more of us is dying in these cities. More of us is dying in these cities. So we got to wake up and realize what's going on. Time is but short because of certain things that we did that sort of set us up for it. Because, like I said, what goes around come around. Certain divine energies wasn't working for us. This is why they were able just to march in and do certain things. And our divine talismans and sacred things just wasn't working the way it used to work. Because if we had these certain things that deprived it of our power, deprived ourselves of our power, and this set us up for them to be able to do what they were able to do.
Certain things.
In returns of conquerors. In other words, they rose up. We had them in slavery. And, I don't get into people about our slavery, their slavery is worse than ours. Slavery is slavery. I don't get to which is worse, but I'm not going to get in the capacity of which is worse and better. We have to recognize where, you can't overcome, you cannot evolve yourself until you recognize the mistakes that you have made and overcome that. You see what I'm saying? So this is also important for us to understand so that we won't make the same mistake over again. You see what I'm saying? Because they say those who don't know history is doing to repeat it. Now, we had the upper hand, but then the tables was turned. And the situation that we had them in, they now have us in that situation. This is why some of the things that they did to get themselves out of, we find ourselves now doing. And in regards to the first question, the significance of Moor, the Moors is the dispensation of civilization. All these other things are different sub-nationalities. So you got Washington Moors, you got Seminole Moors, you got Ethiopian Moors, you got so-and-so Moors. These are sub-nationalities, but the whole picture in terms of civilization was Moor. The word Moor did not originate with Greeks, white people, as people may think that white Greeks or white Romans or something like that, because first of all, the language Latin originated with us, first of all, in terms of looking at Latin terminology, and second of all, Moor, the word Moor's civilization came from the last high priest of the Moabite civilization, Moor Luakinil, who gave the technology and everything, the knowledge from the previous civilization of Moor and Atlantis to his son Yaqub or Jacob, and then they perfected the science of mathematics from 0 to 9, which today they call Arabic numerals, zodiac and geometry, and then we set out to re-educate the rest of the human family at planet Earth to the civilization. And being that we were navigators, we were the main dispersers of civilization on the planet. And we came in contact with the best that each civilization had to offer and used the best parts for ourselves. This is why Moor can never be narrow-minded and dogmatic. And what we need to do is reclaim our Moorish nationality. See, you ask somebody, what's your nationality? We got to be clear about this, because when you look in the Black's Law Dictionary, nationality means your political and legal status. If you don't know you're not sure, then you don't really know what your political and legal status is. Then anybody can do anything they want with you. You have no real legal status. You see what I'm saying? Nationality is key. With your nationality comes certain inherited birthrights, namely self-determination, the right to govern yourself. The different states. You have the federal government and you have the U.S. society. The original federal government was designed by our forefathers. It was taken over, and the de facto federal government was set up by the Union State Society. The different states were set up by the white people united and took it over and set up a de facto government. The different states, the several states of the Union, were all their constitutions. They have their own constitutions, were based on the Magna Carta, which was a Christian code of conduct, based on their particular custom, common law custom practices and usages. We need to come together, put together a governmental structure and staff it. Have brothers in charge. This is what we're striving to do in New York City. I'm the WISE team. I'm the head of the Department of Education. We have another brother that we're putting in the head of the Department of Transportation for ourselves, our own court system, and so on and so forth. So therefore, we will step to the USA sign and say, look, when we reclaim our nationality, we have thereby declared our independence from you, the Union State Society, and we are now governing ourselves according to our common law, custom, practices, and usages. You have no jurisdiction over us. In any court of law, before a court of law can proceed, it has to establish jurisdiction over the person or subject matter. If you establish a warrant of jurisdiction over the person or matter, it cannot legally proceed. It cannot arbitrarily assume jurisdiction over you. When you have clear proof, you have your own constitution, your own nationality, stating clearly who you are. You see what I'm saying? So what we need to do is, and it's not for everybody, the masses is not going to happen. The masses wait to a crisis situation before they respond and do anything. So this is why you always hear in the Bible they talk about 144,000, the first fruits. There's always a group of first fruits, a select few that would, and actually staff a government. You don't need masses of people. You staff it first, you establish your core system, you saw your 3 branches, which was perfected by Ben Bay, executive, judiciary, legislative, and you staff different offices, and you then now get together the most eloquent speakers or whatever, and then you step to you say, I'm not asking you, to recognize me. I'm just out of courtesy. I'm just informing you of the fact. See, in law they have what's known as the compact theory of law, which states, and that's in the 11th lesson here. The 11th lesson of the course I found a jewel of a book. This particular book got into the origins of the states that we call, you know, the different colonies, and how they went from the guild system to the franchise corporate type of structure, like the West Indies companies, all that stuff like that, and then into the Commonwealth, and then from Commonwealth into the state. So it grew right out of a franchise, right out of a franchise. And what it was a group. See, in the compact theory of law, it says that when a free and sovereign individuals come together and decide to collectively govern themselves by reason of their mutual agreement, that government is valid. That's the compact theory of law. That's what they did on the Mayflower Compact. They agreed amongst themselves before they set foot on land. They said that when we get there, we will collectively govern ourselves. And that became what's known as the state of Massachusetts. So there we go again. Therefore, when we claim to govern ourselves in our government, they say, well, that's invalid. Well, half of your states is invalid there because y'all did it all based on the same thing. See, we got to know how to use what they're using against them. You see what I'm saying? So what we need to do is form a government, staff it, and begin to function and stuff, irregardless of whether or not they want to recognize it or what. And we got to do what we got to do to get it recognized on a global level. If they don't recognize, there's other nations in the world that will recognize. You see what I'm saying? Our ancestors, when they perfected the code of the Moor civilization, which consisted of mathematics from 0 to 9, zodiac geometry, they had a vision of a world order, of a one world order, where the people were educated, were given certain tools. For instance, the science of mathematics from 0 to 9, the zodiac and geometry. These are tools that, when applied to nature, will reveal the secrets of nature to you and show you the correct relationship that you need to establish with it. So their vision was that once the human family of planet Earth are properly re-educated to this science, you don't need a police force. You don't need a priest, a rabbi, imam standing over them telling them what to do. They will be able to exist under one law. Do as you will, as long as you do not infringe upon another person's right of the same, and they will be educated and responsible enough to live under that one law. When you see a civilization like this civilization with hundreds of codes, laws, statutes on the books, that shows you that's a decadent society. Because they got to tell you and they got to force you to do what you know is right. But when you properly educate the people and give them the truth, they will do what's right. So the ultimate goal was to establish a civilization based on universal principles, as opposed to narrow-minded religious dogma. See, all the different religions are based on the same universal principles. They just circumscribe it with different rituals and ceremonies, and then they argue amongst themselves over the different. Oh, you got to pray this way. You got to do this way. Yeah. See, but then you miss the forest for the trees. What is the true purpose of all of this? Of all those things? They're all based on the same universal principles. So the purpose of the Moors was to bring us back to universal principles, and then you could have variations on how it's expressed. But that's just showing you the truth from many different angles. The beauty of the truth is like a bouquet of flowers or a diamond with many facets. So the lesson that we need to learn is that we got to get beyond religious mystery. You see, you had two systems here. Religious mystery, and you got what they call masonry, which in reality deals with the evolution of man. You see what I'm saying? To its God-like, the unfolding of its God-like potential. Whereas the other suppresses man under the guise of morality. This is where you get the whole thing with Cain and Abel. And Cain is made to be seen like if he's the bad guy. Cain is the agriculturalist. You see what I'm saying? Dealing with the fruits of the earth. And Abel is the shepherd, the nomadic one, offering up the meat sacrifice. Now, what happened was that Abel represents religious mystery, whereas Cain represented masonry. When he so-called killed Abel, he was exiled to where? The land of Nod, which really translates to node or anode. What's the opposite of an anode? Cathode, catholic, cathode. So you got the anode system, you got the cathode. One deals with the evolution of man to his fullest God-like potential so that he can live under that one law, and the other deals with the suppression of man under the guise of religious morality. When really, the goal of our ancestors was to give you the proper tools of the universal sciences that you need And then you go out and navigate the course of your own life because you're a navigator. And I'm so busy navigating my ship, I ain't got time to navigate your ship. So let me give you the tools of navigation, the tools that you need to navigate the course of life, and you go on and navigate the course of your own life. And that was the ultimate goal. So what we were supposed to learn was that we was not supposed to get involved with enslaving anybody, hiding knowledge, hiding the truth from people so that you can enslave them and exploit them. We was not to break ourselves into different religious factions based on various religious dogma and religious mystery of different varieties. That we was to deal with universal signs and principles and establish a sound relationship with nature and the earth. That was the goal, and that is what we were supposed to learn. That White House that was set up by Ben Bay in terms of universal principles, the signs of government was supposed to be the true United Nations, where the people of the planet were supposed to be guided and represented and guided by the true signs. In our structure of our government, we had what's known as the Rothschild Baruch, or the Star Zodiac Chamber. That was supposed to be a part of the Washington, D.C., where certain calculations were made in regards to the sun, moon, and stars and the different cycles. And then our laws are based on those divine laws, not man-made codes, laws, and statutes, You see what I'm saying? But that has been left out. That's why on the back of the bill you see the pyramid is the cap is separated. The body of the pyramid symbolizes the masses of people, and the cap symbolizes the Illuminati or the illuminated ones who know the truth. But that truth is separated from the masses, and this is why you got the state of affairs on a global level like you see now. So our job is to come together amongst ourselves, govern ourselves by universal moral science, the universal principles, and then set the example and re-educate the rest of the human family planet Earth, the 144,000, because 144 is 12 square. Which means what? We are to square off the rest of the planet with the 12 signs of the zodiac, mathematics and geometry. And then you look at the layout of the new city of Jerusalem, and all the measurements boil down to 12. Shows you that the number 12 is the key to the New World Order. And the science of the zodiac, if you properly understand it, even though it's been commercialized, if you understand that science, it will show you the perfection of government and society, everything, economics, everything should be based on that zodiac, which we trivialize, but we don't know what we're dealing with. So that was the ultimate goal of our forefathers. You know, you could have something, but if you don't know how to really truly utilize it, it don't really is of no good to you. You know what I'm saying? I could live in a house, and under that house could be a gold mine. But if I'm not conscious, I don't know how to dig it out and get it and utilize it, then it's really of no good to me. So they have certain things, they transmit certain things, they preserve certain things, but don't fully understand what they do have. We have the key, we have the solution to it. We don't have to focus on killing the white people, destroying. Don't even focus on that negative emotion. Focus on building yourself up. Focus on building your government and your people, educating you. Focus on that. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to get into negative, annihilating them. It's not about them. You know what I'm saying? We give them more credit than they're worth. I've been trained by Yoruba priests, high Ethiopian priests, Egyptian priests, many different ones that train me and done certain things in order to protect. I got my words are working. You see what I'm saying? I just got to do what I got to do and don't worry about all that. This is why we got to do certain things. Being that we know this already, we just take certain precautions to take care of that, and we move in a certain way strategically. It's like a military maneuver, you know what I'm saying? It's like the art of war. Make a noise over here and attack from this side. You know what I'm saying? We got to move strategically. It's not. We were ancient masters of the art of war. They study Hannibal and stuff to this day. So it's not. There's no obstacle that we cannot overcome in this day and time. We apply ourselves. You know, we can sit back and say, "Oh, this is my habit. They're gonna do." Let's just do the work. Let's just do it, and everything else will fall into place. We say up in the Great Seal that until we activate our government, which is we have set up like what we call the Hex Alpha, some call it 6-pointed star, whatever, and staffing and activating our government in and of itself is a talisman. It's the activation of a talisman. We will reactivate certain energies and forces that will come into play. By us doing what we got to do. I want to know so much about the Moors, but there was no formal class, nothing formally given on it. You know, just something you hear from a brother out here on the street, something from here. I was like, yo, I want something I can sink my teeth into. So I seen a need, so I said, let me fill it. Instead of me complaining, saying, oh, I ain't got no school, this is why. I said, well, don't complain about it, let's do it. So I said, look, I had a background in education. I said, let me put the course together. So I went, I took the basic lessons that the elders gave us. Some of them was only like 1 or 2 pages long. And I went to the extra research to add the extra documents to support it, you know. If you want to go further, you could take the course and say, well, look, it was a good educational experience. I don't want to go no further than that. Or if you want to go further, we help you get your nationality card, your constitution, and all the other documents we have from that point on. You have access to all that. And now you come in this government, this association, as a free and sovereign, more as an equal, and now you can sit down together with us, and we can evolve this together. You know, because not no one man know it all. I don't by no means know, this man don't know it all, but all of us together know it all. You know, so if you want further information, if you want to look at happen, what seemed, based on what the research I did up to so far, it seems like the conspiracy was saying, like I said, they had to graft themselves onto already existing history. So like I said, the original people in that place in Rome was the Etruscans, the original people in Greece or whatever might seem the Minoan civilization. So what they did seemed to me like was graft themselves on it. And then, you know, like during the so-called Renaissance, they were doing sculptures that almost exactly resembled the sculptures that were done in Greece and Rome. And they were passing these sculptures that were being done at that time as Greek and Roman sculptures to make you think that these people were white people back then in those lands. You see what I'm saying? So it seems like these were students, some of them were actually students of us, of the Moors and stuff like that. They were writing, they were using these different pen names, and it was like a thing they was doing amongst themselves. You know, giving themselves an artificial sense of antiquity, which they didn't have. See, another thing I found out too is that Harris really was intricately connected with various fictional writers at the time, like the one who wrote Tom Sawyer, what's the name, Edgar Allan Poe and all of them. At one point when Edgar Allan Poe was down, he lent them money. So here you have fictional writers that's able to write fictional stories that seem like reality. So why couldn't you hire the help of these fictional writers to draw up a whole fictional concocted history? You see what I'm saying? So it's going to take more of us. We got different brothers out there researching different areas, the Masonic connection, this connection, and we got to pull it all together, because if this is true, which it is, this is going to totally overturn their whole paradigm. Their whole thing is going to be overturned if this is right and exact, which it is. Yeah, there's a book I published called Deeper Than the Abyss, and that altogether I published about 75 different pamphlets. They're all $3, $4, and $5. And these are supplemental materials that go along with the course that just supplement it and show you different areas a little deeper, let's say. And the one Deeper Than the Abyss talks about a mind control facility that they had on Montauk, Long Island, with the so-called Philadelphia experiment, and it was underground. And in that particular pamphlet, he says underneath the United States is a vast underground tunnel network. He doesn't go into detail, but he drops it right there that there is a vast underground tunnel network, and it's known. They got cabins, they got things that go for miles underground. They could go for so deep, you know what I'm saying? But they are fully aware of the existence of this. Well, based on my research, it seems as if these tunnel systems were for two reasons. See, it seems as if there was three divisions of us, and this gets back into the so-called Greek mythology, which is really, dealing with us. They break the three main ones down to three divisions, and it seems as if the ones, when they refer to Zeus, the heavenly ones, these seem like the ones who didn't come down to this planet and cultivate this planet like we did. When they talk about Poseidon, those are the ones of us that was dealing with the land and the seas, and when they talk about Hades, they're talking about the ones that was dealing with the underground cities. So really, there seems to me to be three divisions of us. Now we operate on all levels, all three levels. This is whether we realize it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, we really function on all three. Or I should say, I know that some of us, I was talking to brother about it, as if we live altered lives. Some of us, when you go to sleep at night, you think you're just going to sleep. Some of you out there piloting those vehicles that's up there, but you realize it or not. And I had cases where my wife told me of dreams where I'm talking about sleep, I'm talking different language, saying different formulas of mathematics, and saying different longitudes and latitudes. You see? So we got to realize who we are. Some of us, you exist in sometime on more planes than you think you are. So it seemed as if there was three divisions. Hades symbolizing those ones that was in with the underground cities. Shambhala, when you go up into the North Pole, you keep on going to cities inside there. Those of us who was dealing with on the surface, and those of us who never came down, who said, y'all going to one day forget who you are, and we're going to come back and have to rescue you one day to make you realize you're going to get so immersed into the flesh that you're going to forget who you are, the divine entities that you are, because we cultivated this planet, and some say we came here from the star system Sirius. And we came here and cultivated this planet. It's like you cultivate a garden. And I heard it said that this planet, the Moors refer to as the treasure chest of the universe. containing all the species and genetic codes for everything out there. This is why you got different beings come here just to refurbish their genetic code, because it's all here. When you go look at the deepest parts of the ocean, you see fishes, you see animals that look like they're from other worlds. Jellyfish with lights going around, look like UFOs. Some of these species may actually be the basis of a whole system of life in other solar systems, right here on this planet. You got worlds, millions of worlds right here on this planet, right here. And this is why the elders told us, they said that if you want to measure ceiling, but it's too far, you measure the floor. So if you want to understand all that's out there, look right down here on the earth. Now, I'll take one more question, then I'm going to close on out.
I'll answer. Anybody else got it?
Anybody else who didn't? All right. Why is he not a traitor? Because he's the one who perfected the science of government, and he's the one, see, he was dealing with the true science of the Moors. And like I said, what he did was use the Europeans to overthrow the wicked Moorish empire at that time. He's the one spoken of in the book of Revelation as the third horse, which is riding with the scales in his hand. Justice. This is why we refer to him as Justice Ben Bey Emmanuel Muali. You know, he's the one who came to, you know, balance the scales in a sense, you could say.
There's another explanation to all that too. If this beast has done this much with us with civilization, imagine how treacherous he could be if he wasn't giving some tools. Just like another book I was telling him was Ernest Scott's People with a Secret, where the actual Moors actually set masonry up in business, not only to illuminate this white man to the point that he could be civilized, but they understood, like you said, by losing some of this, they had to civilize a person, so when we got under the feet of this person, he would be a certain point that he wouldn't be the same barbaristic person when he just eat us all up.
That book is key, People with a Secret. That's going to be a key part of the next year. I was going to use a lot of posts from that. That People with a Secret book is deep. All right, so at this point, you know, I have, like I said, I have a couple of courses left, and if you want any further information, I'll try and, you know, get you further information, and basically that's it. I thank everybody for coming. Peace.
There's a law that the United States government made just recently, June 1st, in which they say everybody who comes back to the United States has to have either a U.S. passport or a driver's license which has a new kind of code embedded in it. But I don't have either. Greetings, fellow citizens of the world. I'm Gary Davis, and I'm sitting here in about 2 miles from something called a frontier, which is false because there are no frontiers. The sun is on the other side, the sun is on this side, the wind goes freely and so forth. I was in Europe flying a B-17 in World War II. I figured it out that I didn't want to play that game anymore. Along came the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I said, that's it. We can't afford war. I'm not a national citizen. I'm stateless. I gave up being a national citizen when I was 26 years old. I'm a legitimate world citizen, as I hope you are. What does that mean? It means that you have the right to claim your own political allegiance in this world. It's one world we live in, whether we like it or not. And you're a human being. You come out of your mother's womb into the world. And this idea of nation states is totally dysfunctional. It's a carryover from another age. It prevents us from recognizing ourselves legally as world citizens. But what they did was, in 1948, they came out with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that declaration says all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And they're endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. Well, everybody on that side of that house and everybody on this side, that means we are all brothers and human beings on the same level. The reason I'm here is because I just attended a conference in Montreal. The document that I'm going to be using when I come to this frontier, this fictional frontier, is this right here. It's called a World Passport. And it's based upon an article in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That article says everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. It's a very interesting word, country, because it's not state, it's not nation. Country, what's a country? Tom Paine said, my country is the world. This passport is going to be presented to these guys on the frontier, these Homeland Security guys, as I've done many times in the past. I live in South Burlington, Vermont, right next to the airport. So what are they going to do with me? Well, they might say, Gary, we're going to parole you into the United States. I say, no, you're not. I don't admit to being a parolee. A parolee means that you're a criminal. You've been paroled out of prison. Well, Canada's not a prison, and I'm not a criminal, so what else have you got? They haven't got anything else. They cannot send me back here because I won't go back. And they can't put me in prison because there's nothing, what have I done? There's no crime here. I'm not in the United States. And they know I live in South Burlington, Vermont. I have a house there, etc. So they say, well, we got to let you go, which is very, very interesting because that means that I'm not in their book. They can make their laws, restriction, and yet as a legitimate world citizen, I'm not within that framework, etc. And that's the same for you too. But you have to claim to be world citizens. And that claim is your legitimate right. You have the right to identify yourself in this world. And that's what you really are. This is the whole way of making peace, because we make peace between ourselves. Nations can't make peace with each other. Nations are divisive. Nations pretend that there's international law and so forth, but they perpetuate a condition which is anarchic. So we're going up here. We'll continue this tape and show you what happened after we get through this frontier, because there's nothing they can do about me and the world passport, because I'm just not in their book. Hello.
Where do you all live?
I live in South Burlington, right next to the airport.
Hand me that passport. What else you got for ID besides this?
Oh, driver's license.
You got a passport?
That is a passport. Foreign government passport.
Government of world citizens?
Obama's got one. Your president's got one.
Oh, Mr. Davis, how you doing, sir?
Hey, I got a tea time at 3 o'clock. I don't want to be held up.
Okay.
You're all set. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Bye-bye. I got through with no other ID than the world passport. It all took about 2 minutes, and then it was finished. And she said, okay, handed the passports back and says, you're okay. They just passed a new travel initiative on June 1st, and we were wondering whether that would have any effect on the efficacy of the world passport. Not only did it not have any effect, but it's the first time that I haven't been called in to the office for them to to go to their computer and make some kind of notation. And the upshot of this is, of course, is what I've always known, is that the citizen is sovereign, but you have to claim that sovereignty and learn your rights, because if you don't know your rights, you can't claim them. So this is the reality. The reality is that the world is one, and this passport represents one world. And I've been traveling with it ever since 1948.
Ah, the government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you. has the same name and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking ticket or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there's a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oops-a-daisy, you just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate, your child becomes a ward of state, and if the government doesn't like what you're doing, they'll assume it's okay to take the child away, or make new rules for things they don't like. Not enough school? Smacking your child? Shouting too loudly? Then it's off to social services for the little one. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills, fines, and summons start with Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Sometimes you'll see your surname in capitals, just like on a gravestone. That's because your straw man is dead, and just a silly piece of paper, created before you could comprehend or even consent to it. When you go to court, you represent your straw man, so you, the human, take on any costs, fees, taxes, and fines involved for the straw man. The human you doesn't even need to pay them, but you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality or straw man, just like the government knew you would. Confused? Well, don't worry. The government doesn't want you to know anyway. If you knew, you'd stop paying things like council tax and parking tickets. Because when you go to court, you are representing your straw man. You are you, alive and made of flesh and blood. Your straw man, or legal personality, is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate. And you think it's you. What a silly Billy.
This is a certified true copy of my live statement of birth. You can get this by applying for it at the Registrar General. They'll give it to you. And it's very interesting because this is where it all began. This is the foundation document. All identification is generated from this document. And so if the foundation document is no good, anything that's made from it is no good. That means driver's licenses, health cards, everything. Now what they did here, this is exactly what he meant when he said, soon every American will be required to register their biological property. Now your parents didn't realize what they were doing when they filled this out, and these didn't exist before 1933. Birth records were recorded in scripture. And these only came into being in 1933 when they hatched this plan. They created a corporate fiction with a name just like yours. In doing this, they registered and monetized the spirit and soul of a living being. This denotes ownership. And when your parents were tricked into filling this out, they allowed your spirit and your soul to be monetized. And futures were sold on you.
Spirit and soul.
Now, this is my birth certificate. This is actually a share. See this red number? This A, I'm born in Canada, this is a Class A share. Now, this is called a CUSP number. And all securities require a CUSP number. And that's what this is. And you are held as collateral to secure the debt which our government owes to international bankers. So you and me and all these people here are actually collateral. And we don't even own our lives. We are chattel. And we believe we're free. I made an application to the Registrar General and I got my original social insurance application. Now before they sent it to me, they put a little piece of paper over this before they photocopied it. Because my friend has his and they didn't block this out, and when you hold it up, you see Bank of Canada. It is said that the best slaves are the ones who don't know that they're enslaved. And we all have invisible chains on us and we don't know it.
What truth? That you are a slave here. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
We're talking about big bucks. We're not talking about hundreds of millions or even hundreds of billions now. We're talking about trillions of dollars. The obligation is immeasurable. Nobody can measure it.
This door's wide open now. It's gonna happen, whether you like it or not.
Do you notice that they have the same amount of ink on them? Do you notice that they're made out of the same virtually worthless stuff? It's paper. Did you get it? It's paper. When we create money, we have created an instrument of value that has no value of its own. And it's just as expensive or inexpensive to print the 20 as it is to print the 1. In January of 1913, in December of 1913, he signed the Federal Reserve Act, bringing the Federal Reserve System into place in America, and did what Thomas Jefferson said must never happen. He took the control of the money away from the people by taking it away from the Congress and gave it to a group of private individuals who have to pay taxes on the money they loan the government.
They bring you before a judge and he asks you, how do you plead? And your bar attorney will nudge you in the ribs saying, enter a plea, enter a plea, enter a plea. You absolutely do not enter a plea. And you say, I'm not guilty, or no contest. They then say, ha, you agreed to be prosecuted. Let's go ahead with the prosecution. You've taken the hook, line and sinker. You've agreed to go in and be prosecuted. And it's a trick these criminals are pulling. If they get you into their court, they put you in front of their high priest in a black nightie, and he says, how do you plead?
what happened was my name got called out. I didn't correct her, which I was kind of thinking of doing, but then I thought, okay, I'm just going to present myself as who I am standing in front of her, because she seemed actually quite like a nice judge. When I stepped up to the mic, I said I claim common law jurisdiction. She right away rattled off all the charges and wanted to ignore that statement, and then she asked me, how do I plead? And I said, I do not consent, and I waive the benefit. And I think that's a really powerful statement that I want to teach to a lot of people, because when you enter a plea, you enter into a contract. Whether it's guilty or not guilty, it is their way of saying you have understood the jurisdiction that they want you to respond with. And the guilty or the not guilty is something that you actually perjurize yourself with. So when I said I do not consent, meaning I do not consent to you making any legal determinations against me, I do not consent to your jurisdictional claims against me, and I do not consent to contracting with me. Quite final with that. And because I had claimed common law jurisdiction at the beginning of my statement to the judge, she realized that I knew what I was doing, and she dismissed the case right away. So I'm really, really pleased with the outcome.
Very profitable for the lawyers, the cops, and the judges.
Our judges in the justice system, so-called justice system.
And this is how our judges and our lawyers are building a criminal enterprise.
Don't the judges understand this, or do they sleep? Who taught them? What university taught them? Where do they get their education? Don't they know they're on death row?
As I said, the important thing here is we have to start challenging the history that was fed to us, because it's not entirely true. Because we think that history is a dead thing, but it's not. It's the history that sets up the present and the future. All right? History is a weapon, and much of the history that we were fed in school is a fiction. But it was told to us in order to make us accept that England has a legitimate claim to own the island, fair and square, and that we are merely immigrants here, so we can't really challenge their ownership, can we? And second, that history is intended to make us believe that the government we have is legitimate, and that we are responsible for the debts that our government incurs. Anybody ever wondered why suddenly in 1492 all these Europeans decided that they were going to jump on boats and start exploring everywhere? Well, there's a reason. There's always smoke, fire behind the smoke. In 1491, 1 year before his first voyage, there was a war between the Moors and the white Europeans. Actually, that war had been going on for a very long time. The Moors had ruled Western Europe for 700 years. But in 1491, when Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand defeated them at Granada in Spain, Pope Innocente, I love how the popes always have nice names, Pope Innocent. Pope Innocent VIII legalized the enslavement of black people all over the world, and the theft of their lands and their wealth by white Europeans. This happened in 1491, and then in 1492, the voyages all started, right? You had Portugal, Spain, the Dutch, France, and Britain. Everybody just started exploring the so-called New World. How can it be the New World, by the way, if it's older than your world? I mean, I just showed you a 26,000-year-old pyramid in the New World. Anyway, Columbus's first voyage was a military reconnaissance mission. Everybody understand what that is? When you want to wage a war with an enemy that you're not familiar with, you send somebody to scope them out. See how fortified their nations are. See what kind of weaponry they have. And we know this for a fact because he only took 3 ships. Everybody knows the name of those 3 ships, right? Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria. And he only took about 80 crewmen. But when he came back in 1496, 17 warships and 1,300 soldiers. And those ships were carrying cannons, those ships were carrying armory, but he was just an explorer. Columbus and his crew sailed from island to island, wiping out the natives who fought back and enslaving the survivors. This mass murder was justified as converting savages to Christianity in order to bring them under the dominion of Rome. It's called forced denationalization. Denationalization is when somebody takes away your indigenous rights. And dispossession is when someone takes away your birthright property. That was what this whole voyage was about. Because that was the only way they could claim the land. They had to wipe out and disinherit the rightful owners. That is why they made up the story of Arawak. They don't want to admit that they came here, saw black people, and tried to eradicate all of them and then enslave the rest of them. And that their ownership of our island was illegal from day one. This was all done, as I said, with the blessing of the Pope and the Roman Empire, which owned the Kingdom of Spain, Kingdom of Britain, the Kingdom of France. And everything the Romans did, they carried around a red cross. Was it a slave trade or was it a transatlantic war? The story of a massive 300-year slave trading operation that brought 12 million Africans to the Americas, that's North, Central, and South, is a cover story for the European crusade against our black ancestral civilizations. As I just said, the Pope authorized it in 1491, and suddenly they were out there discovering places full of people. Places that weren't lost were being found. The slave trade was part of a centuries-long race war. Now this is powerful stuff. This is powerful stuff. And let me not get ahead of myself. In this war, Arabs, pale Arabs, who had been in conflict with the black Islamic empires of Africa since 1189, allied themselves with the white Europeans and black Christian converts in 1491 to wage a war that would destroy every black civilization on the planet. This transatlantic war combined military invasion and genocide with biological, psychological, social, legal, and financial tactics to achieve total domination over indigenous Nubian peoples. The defeated Nubians were captured as prisoners of war. Again, we go back to the Europeans and their wordplay. The people you are calling slaves are prisoners of war. They're prisoners of war. And what you're calling a slave trade was a war. It was a race war. This strategy was done in order to dismantle families, tribes, and nations. You break them up, that's divide and conquer. To destroy languages, cultures, and lineages, and to dictate a new name, a new identity, and a new story for our people. So how were we made slaves? It was a process, it was a strategy. First, armed mercenaries invade your island and overpower your warriors. Check. Then they established seaports like Port Antonio and Port Royal and Old Harbor and Kingston and Port Morant and Runaway Bay. These are ports from which to coordinate their massacre of the native populations. Step 3, you then enslave the surviving population. Obviously, if you show up here and let's say he wiped out 1 million Nubians on Jamaica in 1494. What do you think the other 1 million are gonna do? I mean, that's what you call literally putting the fear of God into people. So we walked into slavery, some of us. Some of us fought back, and we know who those people were. Step 4, you then prevent them from teaching one another. We take so many things for granted, but understand that 150 years ago, it was illegal for black people on Jamaica to learn to read and write. It was against the law to teach a Negro to read or write. Do not take it for granted, beloveds. Use your intelligence. And step 5, you impose a foreign religion that teaches the natives that they are savages and their invaders are servants of God. The Spanish has succeeded in stripping the island of all its gold. We know that because we know that Columbus, after 6 years in this region, went back to Spain with so much gold that the price of gold collapsed in Europe, and suddenly gold was worthless. So the British couldn't rely on gold. The Spanish took all of that. This island had two things that were more valuable than the gold. This island had agriculture, and it had black people. And so the British figured out a system in which they could use both of those resources to their advantage. This is the beginning of what you know as stocks and bonds. What was the stock? Your ancestors. Livestock, cattle, chattel. You've heard the term chattel slavery, chattel's property. This is where it comes from. It literally comes from cattle, from livestock. That's why they used to literally brand the slaves with a hot iron, just like they did their cows. So that was a stock. The bond was the certificate of ownership. So I, Ramian Reynolds, would be a stock. And the piece of paper that says that Mr. Reynolds owns me would be my bond. All right? And that bond carried a value. A field slave, or I should say a warrior slave, was worth more than a field slave, was worth more than a house slave, was worth more than a female slave, and so on. So the bonds varied in value, all right? The buying, selling, and trading of these bonds is what became known as the stock exchange. Like New York Stock Exchange, like London Stock Exchange, which, by the way, was founded in 1678. So we know it was right there in the slavery mix. And I'm going to show y'all what a modern bond looks like. Who knows what this is? This pretty decoration around the side, that's what makes it legal bonded paper. It's a certificate. It says right up here. It's a certificate. It's a bond. It's a bond. This is a bond. Remember I said, I'm the stock. This is my bond. And my bond carries a value.
Depending on the stock.
Depending on the quality of my stock. This is what is the basis of the stock exchange. This is what built the economy of England. Now let's zoom in on this because I want to show you some details on this. I can't just drop this bomb and move on. This is a bond number. It's called a sequence number. It's a financial number. It starts with A for asset. This seal is a seal of the corporation that registered you. We can spend a whole lecture on this. Here we have the certifying officer. This signature is important. It's what certifies it, and then it's sealed. And we all know the Red Cross, the Cross of Rome. It's right there on your bond certificate. Rome owns you. This is not a play thing. It's not theoretical. This is how the global financial system was actually built. And it's how it still functions. It is how white Europeans continue to extract wealth from black people. Point number 6, moving through these, the so-called independence at last. Okay, in 1692, when colonial government was pretty much set up, right? Remember, they took it over in 1655, they named it Jamaica in 1661, by 1692 they had this lockdown. That government consisted of a governor, an executive council, and magistrate courts of admiralty. All the courts in Jamaica up until 1962 were officially maritime courts. That means they were courts of commerce. It had nothing to do with law or common law. The governor was known as the Lord of the Land, and the chief commander of the Jamaica militia, which up until 1952, that's the name of the JDF. It was called the Jamaica Militia. Has the Jamaican militia, or let's say the Jamaican army, has the Jamaican army ever fought a war with another country? No. You know who the Jamaican army has fought with? Us. Us. The only people these soldiers have ever killed is Jamaicans. Just like they did in Tivoli. When Bruce Golding wanted them to go into Tivoli and kill some Jamaicans, he had to get the Governor General to declare a state of emergency and send in the army. Prime Minister doesn't control the army. The army is still the militia, and is there for the Governor General to enforce the power of the Queen through violence.
From the time we're very young, we're taught to, worship authority basically because that's our key to survival as young children. But as adults, we never go through the rites of passage that tell us how to methodically think for ourselves, and thus we're always in a state of extended adolescence.
To the degree that the individual loses a sense of what freedom really means for himself, mind control is working. This is the constant battle and the struggle. What does my freedom mean to me? What is it? How deep does it go? How far-reaching is it?
Individuals come already with their rights. They're born with their rights. They're inherent. They're hardwired. They're hardware.
And so what you have is everybody's born into this control structure. Everybody's born into authority. Everyone's born into this situation. But just because you have an authority making decisions for you at some point when you're very young, too young to take care of yourself, doesn't mean you should always cater to authority your whole life.
Fatalism, defeatism, what Bob Marley called mental slavery. That's was a huge thing that he would sing about. How do we emancipate ourselves from mental slavery? Have we moved to that point of such slavery that we're too far gone?
If large numbers of people don't become consciously resistant to the overall mind control exerted on society, we're going to see many more people who really truly resemble androids. People induce this themselves by looking out at the world and saying, it's too dangerous for me to tell the truth or to say what I really believe or express how I really feel. It's much better if I fabricate a completely synthetic personality that's going to sit back here and remain passive. That's how it works.
Since the dawn of time, small groups of human beings have instilled artificial circular limitations on the minds of their subjects through the procession of history. Traditionally, the limitations are imprinted on the servile population through a cunning use of language, instruction, and media for the purposes of conquest, social cohesion, and authoritative order by harnessing the human resources of the broad population. Human history reflects countless stories, regardless of what era you happen to live in, and the common thread throughout these stories is that of the struggle between the state, whatever its form, and the individual, the goal of which is to harness and subsume the individual, willingly or unwillingly, into its group collective.
Mind control has existed since the dawn of time. Only the methods have changed. Elites have always known, if I can control the minds of my people, I control them. Only the technology has changed. It's still the same program. It's never stopped.
And in the Greek original text, it's read kybernetes, but you can easily discern how this word tied into cybernetics, the control of not only nations, but how the making of individuals into the collective that forms the nations came about.
What is a citizen, if not someone willingly or unwillingly participating in the machinations of the state? How would we acquire the habits of citizenship without stimulus from the state and our response to it? In an attempt to assist the state, a 14th century Italian named Niccolò Machiavelli crafted several books intended to help the ruling elite dominate their subjects with the most effective psychological warfare techniques available to the world at that time.
And he was trying to convert the Medici family into hiring him to provide political advice. Conspiracy is a story of history. It's a story of plunderers taking care of people who produce. They claim to take care of them through government, which doesn't give you anything, it doesn't take away first. So it's not creating something out of nothing. It's very real what they're doing. They're taking your rights or taking some people's rights and adding more to someone else's rights.
Concurrent to Machiavelli's efforts, the consequences of tyranny were sowing the seeds of liberty throughout Europe, with authors like Etienne de la Boétie of France leading individuals to consider their situations and discover effective means to achieving liberty for all.
So this whole idea of Machiavelli telling the ruling elite how to do this in a more efficient and effective manner without people directly knowing about it. But his mistake is that these books get out there and other people start to read these books because it's not just the ruling elite. This starts to have an influence in Europe. You've got a character named Etienne de la Boétie who writes a discourse on voluntary servitude. And basically what de la Boétie does is he shows you that everything that Machiavelli told the ruling elite about how to control you is undone when you understand it to the nuts and bolts level, where you can then withdraw your consent, and that only then are you free.
Yeah, what they do is they make you think Clinton's evil in running things, then, oh, Bush will save us, and then, oh, Bush was evil, now we'll be saved by Barack Obama, but he's just a puppet. But as we get deeper into this phase, when they implode the economy, they have all the money and all the control, but they also like to pose as the savior. So Obama is meant to be the savior during the Depression, and he'll save us with a 1 million person, he said, is bigger than our military, domestic spy force, a 3 million person environmental spy force. So giving people these jobs to be government bureaucrats and spies to go out and manage the other 290-something million Americans. And so this is classical fascism. The communists also do it. Any vertically integrated command and control authoritarian system does this. So they're openly following what the same group of banks did in Germany, Russia. It's in the Communist Manifesto to have a private central bank, because the private central bankers actually wrote the ideas that they had Marx and Engels put out. People go, well, why would the banks want communism? It doesn't exist. They rape us, they consolidate us, they put us into work brigades, they make us slaves, and they say it's a people's paradise. Look at it, boy, you're really doing good. And then they transfer all the wealth of the nation offshore. The globalists are outside all the nations. That gives them safety, and they play countries off against each other. And so that's what we're facing and dealing with. And so they're bringing in classical, hardcore tyranny in the U.S., but we have the internet. We've grown our numbers. The alternative media has exploded. That's why they're trying to move in to shut down and regulate and tax the web, but it's too late for them. They're playing in the 19th century, 20th century rules. It's 21st century, the century of resistance to tyranny. And so it's going to be one hell of a fight with the people and free humanity on one side and the New World Order on the other. And every one of you out there counts, needs to be involved in this fight like nothing you've been involved with before, because this is life and death. Everything depends on exposing these people. Everything depends on showing the people that this is the New World Order, this is the criminals. We're dealing with the king rats here, the people that are carrying out tyranny worldwide. And either they fall or we fall. Either worldwide darkness and a new age of tyranny and oppression and with a scientific overlay, or a new age of liberty and freedom and a new renaissance. The choice is the people's out there. Okay, we can tell you what's going on. You can check it out for yourself and find out it's true. But don't wait. Investigate now. Get involved now. Go out there and reach out now. We don't have time. If you're looking for the solution, look in the mirror. Look right into the mirror, because you out there, men, women, old, young, black, white, doesn't matter. It's going to be up to you. If they win, or if liberty succeeds and the people have a chance of having any future. These are cold-blooded eugenicists. These are cold-blooded people who think they're God, think that they're our masters, that think that we're animals. These are the guys that funded Lenin and Stalin and Hitler and Mao. These are the guys, it's all on record, that bankroll this stuff. They are hardcore vicious, and they must be resisted.
International bankers are using the monetary system against humanity, then why not pool our resources together to stop this insanity?